In this video, I'm going to show you how to change the air distributor that's built onto a regulator. In this video, we're going to take this air distributor off of this regulator and we're going to transfer it to this nitrogen regulator. So this is a CO2 regulator. We're going to transfer it to this nitrogen regulator. The air distributors that are built onto the regulators for the most part can transfer between different regulators as long as they have the same thread pattern. So we're going to take this dual one, we're going to mount it here on this single. Grab your tools. One of the things that you'll want to do here is have a open-end box wrench. So you can either get an open-ended box wrench that fits this properly or have this adjustable wrench. You don't normally want to utilize these slide lock grippers. They have a really coarse jaw to them, and it can really mark up the threading and the screws that are here on the part. So it's better to find one that has the adjustable with the smooth jaw on it instead of it being the coarse jaw. You're going to get a better grip, as well as you won't mar up the surface and make it to where potentially in the future you wouldn't be able to utilize it. So we'll go ahead, we'll start with this. We'll find out where the thread pattern is. This one's a little hard to see what the thread pattern is, but we'll go through. Usually it's right tight, left loose on these parts. The gauges are left-handed thread, so it's actually right loose, left tight, so it's opposite. You know, if you don't have a vice grip, grip one of these with the hand here, and then you'll go through and you'll push down on this until it starts giving free. So you go through and then we'll slide it off. Once you feel that it's going real easily, remove the wrench from it, and then you can go ahead and take your hand and unthread it. So now it's unthreaded here. The threads in here, you want to look inside to make sure that there aren't any debris or particles inside there. If you have a small finger, or you can take a bottle brush and just kind of gently rub it in there to make sure there's no debris. You don't want anything in there that would potentially then clog the hole or go into the gas system. So make sure it's all free, shake it out if you need to. We're gonna set this one aside. We'll use this and mount it on the regulator here that we're gonna be swapping out the dual on. So now that we have that single done, we'll set that one aside. Then we'll grab the dual, and we're gonna do the same thing. Grab your adjustable wrench here, put it on there, make sure it's snug, and then go ahead and turn it off. This one's gonna be a lot harder. I did bring a small one because sometimes it can be a lot easier to start with the small one, but then I also have a larger one to be able to make it easier. The larger one has a longer handle, and that longer handle can make it a lot easier to be able to get the leverage that you need to turn it off. A couple different ways. So you go through, you can hold the handle up so that you're pulling away from yourself. This one's on there really tough. I'll probably have to go through and loosen it. I have a towel here. We'll lay the towel down so we're not marking up our work surface. And then really I was able to get it to turn a little bit. So sometimes they're on there pretty good. So you want to make sure that you have a real good solid surface that you're able to hold on to when turning it off. Now when you put it back on, it won't be that hard. Sometimes these come from the factory with a little bit of glue on them to be able to help, or a putty. So sometimes that putty causes them to be gripped on there a lot more. So we'll go through and shake that out just to make sure there isn't any debris. You can blow at an angle so that something's not going directly up, but it blow at an angle and it usually helps spin something out. So we have this one out, shake this one out as well. So now we have the part that we want to be able to transfer onto this regulator. Before we start, you can see that there is the little bit of tape on here. And you know, before we put new one on, we'll want to make sure we take this off. But this tape is a Teflon tape. There's gas line tape as well. We're going to be putting new gas line tape on there. And what that tape does is it fills in the threads so that there is not additional space in between the threads on both sides that gas potentially would leak out of. So we're putting the thread tape on there to be able to fill that space to create a positive seal. There's also a putty, as I mentioned, so it's more of a liquid that you can put on there that will do the same sealing, and then it hardens. But the tape is really easy to utilize. It does not create a mess as you're going through it, so we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so the first thing we need to do, you put the tape on the same direction the threading is going. So here I can see that the threading is spinning this way, so I'm going to make sure that the tape follows that. The reason that you do that is you want to make sure that when you're screwing this back on, that if you're following the thread pattern, then the tape is not being unthreaded as you're screwing it on. It's actually being sucked into the pattern. Now you might think that, well, I'm following the thread pattern with the tape, wouldn't that remove it? Well, you're following it with the tape, but your end is actually trailing behind the thread pattern. So as you're putting this on here, your thread pattern is this way, your tail end is this way as well. So you'll go 2 wraps around to make that successful, and that should be enough to be able to provide a positive seal. All right, so we've gone through, we've put that on there, gone through, made sure that that is cleaned out. If we needed to, wipe your finger through there, shaked it out, and then we're gonna go through and follow the same threading. So just follow the threads that are on there and go ahead and get it lined up and then screw it on. And then go until you can do it as much as you can hand tightened to make sure that it's on there nice and strong. And then once you do that, with the hand tightened, then you'll go through and you'll grab your wrench, open it up, and go through and turn it one more time around to make sure it's nice and snug on there. You're gonna line up these air distributor points with the gauges so that they're all sitting in the front. That's a nice, easy way to ensure that you know what you're seeing. All right, so we almost have that there. And you can see it does require a bit of effort to get that done, but once we get it on there and lined up, perfect. Now we have a dual out distributor mounted onto this nitrogen regulator. Previously it started off as a single. Now what we have to do is, now that we have this together, now we have to test to make sure that there's no leaks through here. So we're gonna take this gas cylinder that we have here, we're gonna connect the regulator to it and make sure that we don't have any leaks. I'm gonna break the seal off of the gas cylinder here. Mount this on here. I have this threaded, so we'll go through. You always hand thread the regulator onto the tank first, and then you can go through and bring it down. And then we'll go through and we'll take our wrench, put it up to the proper size, which is 1 1/8, and we'll tighten it on there. Now I can see this one already has some movement elsewhere, so there might be another leak in this one, but for this demonstration, we'll pop it on here. We have it all set up. We have this set here. We can test. Yep, gas is flowing out of there. All right, so now we have our bottle of soapy water. You do a high concentration of soap compared to water to make sure you can get lots of bubbles in there. And I'm shaking it up vigorously to make sure that I'm testing that it's not gonna have many leaks. I'm gonna lay my towel down here underneath it to be able to catch any drips. But I'm just gonna go through and spray these surfaces to see if I catch any leaks. Go through and look around both sides of it. All right, I don't see any leaks. I'm gonna go and check the regulator up higher too here, just because I noticed it seemed a little loose at the top. This one looks good. If you're checking one area, you can just go through and check the whole thing if you wanted to, just because you're here. No harm done there. If you're already here doing some checks on it, it can make it really easy to be able to check the whole system. All right. So I don't see any leaks here on this part here. So we should be solid. Everything should be really good, and that's how you change your regulator from a single to a dual.